I was stimulated to do this podcast through communication with an old friend, Lindsay Clarke, the novelist, famous for A Chymical Wedding, but who also wrote other novels like Sunday White Man and The Water Theatre, both set in Ghana, in Africa. And it made me think about the strange series of events, kind of links in the chain, which drew me to Ghana in a most extraordinary way. It happened over quite a long time, and I'm going to recount some of the links in that chain in my podcast. I Could Have Been a Shaman, Part 2. The Irresistible Pull of Ghana. Before the events I shall relate here, my only knowledge and understanding of Ghana and all things African was probably shaped by Joseph Conrad's The Heart of Darkness, and maybe Jung's conjectures about that continent's living closeness to something spiritual we had lost in the West. Possibly. Well, my story kicks off when I was a member of what I shall call here 4 Men in an Attic, a weekly meeting of 4 friends who offered critiques of each other's writing and musings. There was Lindsay Clarke, later extraordinarily well known for his novel A Chymical Wedding. There was Richard Lannoy, the late Richard Lannoy, who was expert on many matters India. He helped produce and mount an exhibition on Tantric Sex at the ICA and produced a beautiful book, photographic essay on Benares. And the 4th member of the group was Mackmin, poet, later, and editor of the Rialto magazine. Well, a while later, I read Lindsay's first novel, Sunday White Man, which was an account of a colonial white man trying to understand and cross the divide separating him from village life in North Ghana. And the kind of conflicts there resonated with me. So all of that is now part of my experience. And then later, when I was living in Norwich, I met and befriended an old lady who lived almost across the street. And her nickname was Nocky. And I discovered that she had been in Ghana and had written an extremely successful children's book called A Shanty Boy. I'm going to read a poem I wrote about her now. Letting Go Africa. She carried, deep within her, an unwritten past in Africa, and held it smouldering in a brick kiln of stern pride, through whose vents the Norfolk winds whistled up the shapes of things gone by, in sudden spurts of flame. Halfway through her second book, Nocky died, Ghana gripped in a final writer's block. She'd walked these grey brick Norwich streets, beneath the gathering charge of swallows, pulling shopping, her grey hair awry, like any other of our heavy-ankled folk, stumping out of life. Yet behind her slightly butty eyes no dementia hid, nor interminable lists of trivia. But Africa, dipped by pen and pressed against each page, dark and bleeding still, Africa behind the still net curtains and heavy bolted blankness of her house, Africa silent in the eyes of her cat, stiffly waiting at the window. When the police broke in, with their neat removal of a back door pane, to find her fallen open like a dried flower, the curtains shook, and the cat stretched, and Africa was at last let out in time to seek a homecoming on the black dispatch of her pallbearer swallows' backs. So later still, my son Joseph, who is a keyboardist in a variety of groups, was asked to play with a band called the Kete Warriors, reformed by Mac Tonto from Osibisa members. And he toured both in the UK and then in Ghana. Much later, I found an anonymous woman on Soulmates in The Guardian. The fact that Joseph had been there for several weeks made me write to her, in the spirit of a pen friend rather than anything more serious. She posted no picture or other identifying details, except that she was in Accra, and the very name Accra was lit up to me amongst all the other information on the site. She left her post up for 4 days in total. But somehow I linked to it in those 4 days. And pen friend turned out to be much more serious. And we eventually married in Ghana. And I lived there for 5 years. Oh, I have many stories. But it is where I wrote the 3rd book in the Azimuth trilogy, and a couple of novels too. So all these links in a strange chain crossing my biography. Interesting, don't you think? That was I Could Have Been a Shaman, part 2. Maybe I'll do even more parts to this series. Anyway, it just raises in one's mind the strange nature of place, space, time in one's biography, and the fact that only by looking back do you sometimes make the connections which show something more solid than you ever felt you were experiencing at the time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that hearing this kind of story will perhaps persuade you to go to my site, www.jacksanger.com, and download 1 or 2 of the books that I wrote before Ghana, while I was there, and afterwards. Meanwhile, there are other podcasts to listen to as well, as you know. So that's it for now. Bye for now. Bye-bye.